Every UN member state has to undergo scrutiny of its human rights record every 4 years through the process called the Universal Periodic Review, or UPR. So the Philippines recently, of course, completed its UPR review before the UN. It was no surprise that I think states from all regions of the world brought forward severe concerns about the rate of extrajudicial killings within the Philippines, the climate of impunity, and the threats against human rights defenders and journalists. These states called for an end to the killings, an end to the inflammatory rhetoric by the president, for there to be investigations into the deaths. And so we're very disappointed, but not perhaps surprised, when the Philippines government just this past month gave its response to these recommendations and rejected every single recommendation related to an end to the killings or adequate investigations. I think that shocked the conscience of the international community. And what we saw in response was dozens of states issue a joint statement at the UN Human Rights Council, the UN's top human rights body, condemning the killings and calling for the Philippines to cooperate with the international community in ensuring investigations into the deaths. It's quite unprecedented. I mean, every country in the world has human rights challenges, and what we look to from governments is to come before the UN and acknowledge the challenges they face and commit to doing better. What we saw from the Philippines was just a wholesale rejection of any acknowledgement there's even a problem, let alone any commitment to addressing it. And on the contrary, in fact, we saw just a state of complete denial, a refusal to accept recommendations as simple as ensuring appropriate investigations into the killings that are so widespread here. I understand that the government has tried to present their Universal Periodic Review process as a success because their report was ultimately adopted. But there's nothing to be proud of in that. Every UPR report is adopted. It's just an acknowledgement that the UPR process is complete. What usually happens is that when the report is adopted, governments say, okay, the process is finished, and they move on to the next item of business. In this case, what we saw was dozens of governments from all regions of the world expressing joint concern at the responses from the Philippines. There was a joint statement led by Iceland on behalf of 39 countries, an increase from a similar statement of concern in June on behalf of 32 countries. And what these 39 states said was, I'm sorry, Philippines, but your responses are not good enough. They don't respond to the recommendations we've made. You haven't committed to ending the killings. You haven't committed to investigations. And really, if the government of the Philippines won't take appropriate action, then the international community has no choice but to step in and say, if you won't ensure that human rights are respected, we will.